welcome to this month's edition of Ham Talk. We'd like to thank you for joining us. It is always a pleasure to have you here. And of course, we'd like to thank our sponsors, the Hamsters Week Signal Group. We couldn't do this without them. And a big part of that is one of my co-hosts, Greg.
Howdy, everybody. And I'm coming at you live today from my actual ham shack again. It's finally back up and operational.
And Andrea.
Hello, Andrea, K5QE SUPER.
And Melissa.
Hi, Melissa, K5QE.
They're all so adorable, except Greg. We're just going to let the dinosaur stomp all over him. So thank you guys again for joining us, because we have got some really awesome things this month. And one of the coolest things that we actually have, once we get done with all of the questions, the guys are bringing you some pictures from their trip to Huntsville. You're going to love it. I cannot believe I wasn't there. Everybody thinks I was there. All of my friends think I was the one taking the pictures. I was like, I was not there. So they all think that I was, but I wasn't.
Well, that was your normal mode.
Right. That's pretty normal for me. And then, of course, Andrea, we're going to have some pictures from her and her activities and her contesting that she did. So we're going to jump right into it. I believe Melissa has some questions.
Yep. First, I want to say we would all like to say congratulations to Sam for being highlighted in the QST magazine. Now, I did a little research today because all this is new to me. QST, amateur radio shorthand, meaning calling all stations, is the magazine of the ARRL, and the magazine started in 1915. So I know it's old news to you, but it's new news to me. And Sam has a great story in the December 2020 QST magazine. Also, besides going to ARRL, you can also view it or look her up on qrz.com, and in the upper left, type in KE0LMY and take a look at some of Sam's accomplishments. Congratulations. That was awesome.
Well, thank you. I was kind of surprised when the ARRL reached out to me. They reached out to me in about September or October of last year. And I have no idea where they found me, how they found me, but they reached out to me. I thought it was a gag or a spam email.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God. But what do you do? But then I talked to him for a while and found out that they actually wanted to do the article they wanted to do it for the November issue, which would have been cool because my birthday's in November. But then they put me down to December, which is really cool because I am a Christmas girl. So I was super excited.
Wow.
The Christmas.
Yeah, it was a very interesting article. And also, I dove into QRZ and looked you up, and oh my gosh, there's so much info on you in there. It's awesome. So.
It is just so many hats that I wear just because I feel that giving any little I can to people to help them when they don't have the skills or the knowledge is the least that I can do. I was raised by two very amazing parents who were firefighters. So I have always been in the service industry with them. I have a fire family now, as you'll see on QRZ, and I really have to thank my parents for everything that they taught me.
Well, and you've carried on a good tradition and stuff. I mean, both your kids are very active in it, and it's impressive. I love seeing your Facebook pictures all the time of the different things that y'all are doing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good.
But now you know why I'm always running and hardly ever answering my email.
I would sit there and say, I understand fully, but I have retirement looking at me real close. So I'm eventually going to be able to say, oh, what day work at work? So pretty soon I'll just have to feel sorry for you.
That's okay. I'll take that.
Right now, misery loves company.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Okay. So before we go into questions, I did notice that on our Ham Talk number 8, within the last week, I just wanted to make note that Michael, WA5AZQ out of Bee Cave, Texas, posted a pretty lengthy but interesting comment, again, on number 8 about roving using the app Maidenhead. So if anybody has any interest in that, they can go back to that number 8. While we were on the trip, Greg, N5XO, received a call from Robert, K5QE, and he had some questions. So question number 1, I'm looking to greatly improve my VHF UHF station. I've been looking to add tower mounted preamps, and it's my understanding that I must use a sequencer in order to not destroy it. Per your past recommendations, I'm looking at several 1 kilowatt or greater amps for 2 meters, and the Beco has a sequencer. But another manufacturer told me to not use the built-in sequencer as it would not work properly. I've also looked at the DCW 2004 sequencer from SSB. What are your thoughts on sequencers and what type of use?
Well, interesting question. First of all, I don't know who told you. I think they just wanted to sell you a sequencer. Shack here, you can see my sequencer right here. And I don't know if you can see the Beco here and the Beco's over there. I use all those sequencers built in. Been using the SSB preamps for going on to 7 years, and the built-in sequencers to the Becos and the SSB sequencer that goes to the one preamp that's not covered by a Beco is never had a problem. It's all wiring it up properly and getting the timing sequences down. What a sequencer does, just real quick, is when you key the microphone switch, the sequencer is what you're actually keying. So it goes ahead and the sequencer will go ahead and click on. It will shut down the relay to the preamp, effectively bypassing it from the circuit, antenna circuit, and grounding the preamp. And that's to protect it from the power, because 1 millisecond of transmit power and that thing's toast. And at $700, $800, $900, that's an expensive toast. After it shuts down the relay, and it does all this in just a second, it shuts down the relay for the preamp. It then keys up the amplifier circuit, and then it turns around and keys up the actual transmit on the radio. So you're not actually applying RF until everything is sequenced in the proper position. The most important thing on a mass mounted preamp is to make sure it's rated for the wattage that you're using, because just because you're shutting it down, if the relays up there are not designed to isolate and properly absorb the transmit power, you can quickly fry one, even though you've bypassed it. Asked me how I know that. Because when I first started, I was running 300 watts on sideband 2 meters. And then when I kicked in the Becos, or actually the Henry before that, and was putting 1,1300 watts into that 250 watt rated amplifier, I was buying a new one. So that was an expensive mistake. So make sure the preamp's rated for the power that you're going to run, and always plan for ahead, because everybody says, oh, I only got 100 watts. Well, that's great. But if you got components that are only rated for 100 watts, 9 months from now, a year from now, when you buy an amplifier, guess what? You're out. The second thing to consider on the mass mounted preamp is properly adjust it. Most of the time, if I go out and help somebody troubleshoot a problem they've got, they're running the preamp wide open. They sit there and say, oh, a little bit of gain. Well, let's have a whole lot of gain. So what you end up with is 20 dB of gain. Well, what happens when your front end of the radio receiver is overpowered? It clamps down and starts shutting down. So you just boosted a signal to shut the signal down. So you want to adjust the preamp to match the amount of loss in your feed line coming down. But no, you must run a sequencer, and you, with very few exceptions, there's a couple Vox powered switches, but even though I just would run a sequencer. Must run a sequencer for 98% of the preamps out there. You must adjust it properly, but the most economical thing to do is cut your feed line loss and not need a preamp. Preamp is to overcome losses in your feed line. Andrea, you want to comment on that?
Well, I'd add that the preamps can also improve your noise figure. And so because it's before any filtering stages and before the feed line, and what noise figure it comes down to is the noise floor on your receiver. If you have a poor noise figure in the preamp, what you'll hear sometimes, you turn it on, you'll hear an increase in noise, but actually have more difficulty copying if the noise figure is worse than that of your rig. Now, feed line losses add to the noise figure indirectly. And so by amplifying before that, it helps out. The downside of the preamp is if you have strong local signals, that they overload the preamp and everything gets worse. And that's why you usually have switches to turn on and off your preamp, so you can work it either way. So there was that, and I think that was all I was going to add.
Yeah, one thing, comment further on that. That's one of the reasons why in-shack preamps are a bad idea, because all you're doing is amplifying the loss of your signal and the noise in there. So it makes the S meter go way up, but it does absolutely nothing for pulling out that signal out there. I hope that answers all your questions.
Okay, and question number 2. My tower is 100 feet from the shack, and I'm running 7/8 hardline to the tower and LMR 600 up the tower about 30 feet, and then LMR 400 UF for rotor loop to the antenna. In line with my first question, what are your thoughts on mast mounted preamps and the value they would add to my station?
With 7/8 hardline, your losses shouldn't be that bad for 100 feet. You're going to have some loss on the LMR 600 going up the tower, but not much again. So personally, I would wait to spend the money before I'd buy a preamp, unless you're doing something like EME or something where you really need to pull some weak signal stations out. Preamp probably is not going to give you a whole lot of benefit with those kind of losses, because with the combined setup, now you don't say how long your LMR 400 UF is for the rotor loop, but rough estimate, I'm going to say you've got you're under 2 dB of loss. So that really shouldn't impact you a whole lot. I really think everybody should strive to get your losses under 1 dB as a rule and everything, but you're not that far off that I don't think a preamp's going to help you a whole lot, except for in some occasions. Andrea, your version?
My coax runs are maximum 24 feet, and most of them are 18 feet or less. So I can't really add that much to that, other than I don't know that frequency was mentioned. The numbers you gave were appropriate for 2 meters, but 70 centimeters, that starts changing a little bit. And if you're on 23 centimeters, yeah, you probably want a preamp. Even with
he was in the conversation on the phone when we had it. It was all about 2 meters, and I think possibly 432. Oh yeah, on 23 centimeters, this would be a whole different conversation. Okay.
All right, that's the end of the questions.
Oh well, okay. Well, I'll tell you what.
Pictures now.
Yeah, pictures.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and it's going to get a little clunky here while I bring in the screen share, but I'm going to go ahead and try sharing the screen and not screwing anything up. And we'll see if we can just drop right into our Huntsville trip.
These are the censored pictures, the nightlife pictures removed.
All right. Well, there's, speaking of which, there's Samantha's
Yep.
magazine article there. So we've got that. All right. Huntsville HAMFest 2021. We had a lot of fun. Myself, my wife, Ruth, KE5MHJ, Melissa, and Jay, a friend of mine, and Ruth, W5GNA. We all loaded up into Ruth's pickup truck and we made a venturous trip to Huntsville, Alabama for the Huntsville, Alabama HAMFest. And on the way, we got to meet Miss Andrea. We met her after a little bit of confusion on what hotel we were in. But we did finally connect. We all had breakfast at a local IHOP there, and then we got on the road. There we are just before we are venturing back out on the road. Melissa, I'll roll it over to you for some stuff here, and we'll just go around the table and comment on photos.
Well, I'm just enjoying the, I'm just thinking we're gonna flip through these slides. I would have to say that I always enjoy breakfast. That's my favorite meal of the day. But overall, like in general for the trip, and I know we have other images of the rover, but to me, that was so much fun following the rover on the highway and watching people like staring at this car driving by them. It was a hoot.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's the gang, Ruth and me and Melissa and Andrea. Jay, since he wasn't part of Ham Talk and stuff, took the picture for us.
He stood in for Sam.
He did a wonderful job.
I liked having somebody there because, like you, Samantha, I'm the one that's always taking the pictures. So we have thousands of events with all of our ham activities, and I ain't in any of them.
Don't worry. For our next episode, I'm going to take a few of these and I'm going to Photoshop myself in.
There you go. There's the thing. Now I'm going to throw a comment to Andrea there. One of the things I was impressed with, and we took some roadway pictures there. There we go, going down the highway. I was expecting a lot of movement on those antennas. I mean, they're getting 75, 80 miles, because we were doing 80, 85 miles an hour most of the trip. And those things stayed rock solid, even when she was rotating them.
Yep.
Looking at the video, the only one that I saw moving around was the 6-meter loop. And that was largely moving because one of the supports had got knocked off by a tree branch. And I haven't gone up there and reconnected it, in part because, well, it didn't seem like a big deal. Now that I've seen how much that moves and the little arm bouncing around, I'm like, yeah, I better fix that one. But it wasn't a lot of movement. It was pretty stable.
No, they stayed extremely stable. And then we stopped for gas.
What? I was going to say, and guess what we're dealing with here?
Andrea?
Oh, yeah. You noticed I came into the gas station as I was picking out some stuff in the store there to say, it looks like I've got some coolant leaking out of the car. And it was leaking and leaking and leaking. Fortunately, it was leaking. It was not spraying out. And, you know, you may remember in that June contest row, my gosh, it was already there. I had done a repair. Well, I never replaced the radiator. So I was just going on this, you know, 1,500-mile sojourn with the radiator the way it is. Look at the expression on Sam's face over that one.
Yeah. The good news is her patch held. The bad
Oh.
news is the radiator found a whole new hole.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, please tell me you've gotten the radiator replaced.
Well,
Oh,
Hey.
no.
Move on, Greg. There we go.
there's
Nice.
Melissa
Now, I
was,
want to give a plug to these guys. I mean, we pulled in there, about 11 o'clock in the morning, and they had the radiator pulled, a new one put in, and we were on the road by 1:30, 2 o'clock.
yeah, 1:30.
Well, what was the company? I'd go ahead and give them a shout out. They did a good job. Oh, I can't see it. It's so small.
It's Performance Shopworks LLC. And where were we exactly?
Someplace in Mississippi, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the town.
Well, that was pretty amazing of them. So good job, guys. Big hand from Ham Talk for you. And thank you so much for getting our rover on the road.
Yeah, they were a great group of guys. I mean, they jumped on it. I don't think we were there 10 minutes when they were already started working, and
Yeah.
they had us on the road. Now, the whole time they were changing the radiator, Andrea and me and Melissa and Jay and Ruth were fielding 450,000 questions on what it was.
Fair trade.
Yeah.
4450 Highway 80 West, Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they were a great job. So if you're ever in Jackson, Mississippi, and you need any kind of repairs, recommend those guys. Back on the road again.
Woo!
We're boogieing down, heading on the pathway there. Andrea started showing off and rotating her antennas while Ruth, and there is a video clip, but I couldn't get it to properly play.
Yeah, we were talking to Andrea on the radio, and it's like, rotate your stuff. we wanted to see if it was gonna start flailing about, and it was really smooth, smooth.
I flabbergasted how stable those antennas were, even when they were turned completely sideways to the wind.
That's good engineering.
Yes.
It is. And there's
I
Ruth
like-
boogieing down the road.
I like the comment that Melissa made that it looked like the main turret on a battleship turning forward.
Yeah. So it was there. Then it was my turn to have a leak.
That's only because it rained. If it didn't rain, it wouldn't have had a leak.
We have a third light dash mounted antenna plate on Ruth's truck because it's all aluminum, so you can't use a mag mount.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm not about to drill a hole in a $60,000 truck. Plus,
No.
the whole roof is glass. So
Oh,
it's a
no.
panoramic sunroof. So there's not exactly any place to drill and run a wire anyway. So we got this. Well, about 2-3 months ago, we had to go get the vehicle inspected for its annual inspection. And the third light brake light bulb was out. So I just had Quick Lube change the bulb. Well, apparently they didn't stop to think that there's a groove cut up there for a reason, so the coax can fit. So as Andrea or Melissa found out on our road trip in a torrential downpour, which you can't see, but it's still downpouring while we're underneath the gas station cover fixing this. We had about a 1/16 of an inch gap between the top of the light and the roof of the cab. So all the water on the roof was running right in, and we had 2 waterfalls on either side of it.
Yeah, it was hitting the headliner, and the Ford headliner had a little bit of a groove in the back of it, so it was running down the back sides, and it was literally pouring.
Shows she had an inch for water feature.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was amazing how much water was coming in. And those big 44-ounce styrofoam
Drink cups, slushy cups and stuff.
Yeah, those big old styrofoam cups. 2 of those fit perfectly. They just wedged right into the headrests and the sidewalls, and they were catching But that
It
was
failed every now and
crazy.
then. But as
Gosh.
soon as we found a place to pull over, we pulled over and made some repairs, and then I permanently fixed it when we got home. But needless to say, I was a little annoyed that they didn't put the coax back in the groove.
Oops.
Yeah.
Should have gone to that.
So I
top-
jumped out and started taking pictures of Greg. And of course, I submitted the one where he's got his tongue out because, he works better with his tongue out. Make sure to get that one.
There we are at the hotel for breakfast.
Yep.
The morning of Huntsville HAMFest.
Yep.
So, we were there. And about that time, we started complaining because Sam wasn't with us. Here's the opening bell. Now, here's where I got a little bit disappointed. I mean, we made a long trek to Huntsville, and they had, because of COVID, they had about 4 to 8 vendors back out at the last minute.
Oh no.
And a bunch of sellers decided not to show up either. But it was still a pretty good event. I enjoyed it. There was a good turnout. It was a nice thing. It was well spaced out for COVID. There was plenty of room. The first HAMFest I've been in with that many people that we weren't elbow to elbow trying to walk.
Yeah.
And everywhere.
Andrea was a celebrity in there.
Yeah. Andrea was a superstar celebrity at everything. There's Ruth actually coming in with the crowd. And stuff. So we got, everybody was coming in and going, and there's Melissa and Andrea trying to look like they're super.
Move along. Now that I thought was so cool. That was totally cool.
It had a totally cool price tag.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because no, that would have been fun to hook on the back of the hamster trailer and stuff and tow along with the hamster mobile ham shack that we've got. Get out someplace and deploy.
I think it would be a good addition to the Rover.
Well, it would get more antennas, but she'd have to park it. I could just see that telescoped all the way up with Andrea.
See?
Andrea doesn't seem to know limits.
She'd rig it up so it'd rotate,
Now, I took this because I just thought it was so cool, and I'm going to date myself, and here's the dinosaur things again.
Yep, dinosaur.
This was my family's television when I was a little kid, like 5 or 6. And I mean, that's the exact same model, 3 channels, the little tiny round picture and everything. The guy was selling it for $25. It was still in working condition. I wanted that thing, but somebody beat me to it. And I don't know what I would have done with it. I just wanted it.
Hook it up as an extra monitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just, I'm sorry, but that just really took me way back. But that was our family TV when I was about 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. Some of the vendors there, that was the
solar and batteries. That was really interesting. I could totally get into that.
And this guy actually did a very good presentation on lightning protection, grounding, and everything. It was one of the better presentations that I think we attended there. But he did a good job. This, I don't know why I took it. I've been familiar. This is actually a Russian-made SDR.
$7,000 price tag.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I sat there and almost bought that at Dayton in 2015. Instead, I went with Flex Radio, so I've got 2 or 3 Flexes back here for my SDR to do everything. Some more of the gear that the vendors had for sale. I keep waiting for Andrea and Melissa to say something here. I've never known Andrea to be this quiet.
I'm just waiting for the pictures to go through a little faster.
No.
It's been
Like,
2 hours on these pictures.
This is Saturday dinner. We all decided to have some dinner. As you can see, I ate too much.
Don't worry, I'll tell you a secret. The secret is most people, when they watch these YouTube videos, kick it to like 2 times the speed. So
2x.
it sounds like a chipmunk, and it's going a lot.
There's our view of the that's looking out the our bedroom balcony right there into the hotel. It's a nice place.
Yeah.
The geochrome 4K clocks with the ham radio thing, which I fell in love with. So I promptly came home and updated mine to add the ham features and stuff. So it's kind of cool. You can do a little bit more tracking with maximum usable frequency and stuff on there. It's great. Yeah, I got home. I called Geochrome. I said, I can't find the upload for the ham features because it's not ready yet. Well, you had it at the ham fest. He goes, all right, hang on. And
yes,
he sent me a download. And the next day, Andrea took off for New Jersey because, well, she was becoming antisocial and didn't like us anymore. And we were sitting here thinking, what can we do? We're not ready to quite shoot home in a mad dash. So we went by the Space Museum, which actually turned out to be a pretty cool stop. We ran into the old Star Trek crew back in time. The booster stages and stuff. I mean, this was a cool place to kind of visit and everything.
Yep.
Now I tried to talk them into letting me take this antenna home. But
that didn't fly.
Yeah, they would not cooperate. Plus, Ruth didn't think the bed of her truck would hold it. And I had to agree she had a point. We wouldn't have been able to shut the cover for sure. But that would be a great moon bounce antenna for 23 centimeters. And of course, no trip is worth, if you ain't got the robot. Danger Will Robinson.
Robinson Danger.
Now, here's what I thought was impressive. Those rocket engines are big. You don't realize how big they are until you're standing next to just one thruster.
Wow.
Yep.
Ruth and Melissa pretending that they're cute and stuff.
They are cute. Shut up, Greg.
It was pretty cool. They had like a spacesuit cut out where you could get in there. It was really cool.
That's pretty realistic.
Yeah.
Well, it's an actual spacesuit that you climb in. It's just permanently fixed in place.
Yeah.
Here, the rover I thought was really cool.
I'm betting Andrea wants one of those for her birthday.
Yeah, I would like one for my birthday. But what I thought was coolest and stuff, and nobody else seemed to think it, the tires
I love the tires.
Metal springs with like a screen grill on it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a pretty cool design.
No flats.
Mm-mm.
Got to be
They're not
careful.
going to blow up from the tire pressure. Of course, the lander. Now, one thing that all of us thought was beyond fascinating, we're looking into one of the actual capsules that the astronauts went up into space and came back down in.
Oh, wow.
There ain't no way at our age any of us could figure out how to get in there. We weren't flexible enough to climb in and see.
Very, very tiny space. My main comment about, everything that we saw was, it was just amazing how kind of archaic in a way, how archaic and bulky the equipment was, and how tiny the amount of space was left to put a human being in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with with our technology that we have today, the cabins would be more roomy because the electronics don't take up near as much space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know how anybody sat in that thing because you couldn't move.
Look, I'm claustrophobic looking at it.
Yeah.
Switch the picture.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the money shot.
There's the whole pile of us there and stuff. It was a fun trip. We needed Sam with us, but unfortunately you weren't able to make it and stuff. We were talking, maybe we need to do a Dayton trip or something here in a year or so and see if we can get the whole team up there and everything.
Yeah, we'd have to go see her because she don't have time to go. She doesn't have time to be traveling.
Well, unfortunately, Mississippi's a little out of the way of Ohio. But we'll just call them up and tell them that she has to have a vacation for her sanity.
Wait, would I come back more sane or less sane?
It depends on how much you hang out with us. Because one of the things that we discovered on this trip is Melissa, Andrea, and I have a bizarre sense of humor. We won't mention that Miss Andrea screwed with us royal trying to catch up with her on the damn highway.
All right, thank you for the outtake. I believe we have a whole nother set of pictures to get to.
Yes, ma'am. Andrea, tell us about your last weekend.
Oh, I thought you were going to let me talk about that message.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Andrea got to go to the K5QE Marshall's super station. This thing is a mega contest station.
Oh, wow.
And he
Flip the picture, Greg.
Huh?
Flip the picture. There we go.
There's some towers here at Marshall Station. And that, I don't know if that's all the towers, but you can see all kinds of antennas on the side of the towers. You see many antennas repeat, and they're just a vertical array of like on the center tower there, how many, what, like 8 Yagis pointed in one direction. And he just has a switch and you select those and they're all stacked, and it gives, being relatively short Yagis, but a lot stacked, he has high gain over a fairly wide angle. And he has one pointed towards Austin and San Antonio and Houston area, all that's in one pattern. And then another one that picks up Oklahoma and Dallas. And then there's the rotating.
Also rotate up at top.
Yeah. So amazing set of antennas. I don't have a picture of the building, but it's a dedicated building. And he's got many more antennas. Right here, it's a little hard to see all of them because the trees are in the background. But there are 3 EME arrays. These are Earth, Moon, Earth arrays. And this nearest one here, I believe, is 70 centimeters that you can see. The next one down, it's kind of hard to see in the background, is for 2 meters. And then there's one for 1¼ meters. And his 1¼ meter array, I believe, is the largest, certainly the largest in the US. It may be the largest in the world, probably in the world, since 220 isn't most places in the world, come to think of it. And being in Hemphill, Texas, Marshall is not particularly close to any population centers. So he's working long distances, getting in the San Antonio, Austin, Houston's no problem. Houston's actually the closest. But in order to get a lot more multipliers and more stations, he bounces signals off the moon. That's what EME stands for Earth, Moon, Earth communications. Bounces signals off the moon and talks to stations all around the world. Working ones in Europe, gives them a whole bunch of multipliers to help his score on the terrestrial contacts.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, when the last time I was there, he had a 6 meter, a 2 meter, and 432, I thought. I didn't know he had a 220, but it's been about 5-7 years since I've been there.
Yeah, he doesn't have a 6-meter EME. I don't know that he ever had.
Well, he did. At least maybe, unless I'm remembering it wrong. Look at
Okay.
it.
Here I'm operating a 6-meter meteor scatter in Sunday morning. And behind me is Francis Kilo Victor 5W in the red shirt, and sitting in the distance there against the wall, that's the 2-meter EME setup, and Marshall K5QE there is operating that. This is okay. There's a station I'm at. There's another 6-meter station right next to me that's used for some operation. And then as you go around the room, there's another station that's not active. That's the 432 EME, or 70-centimeter EME. Then there's the 2-meter that Marshall's at. And then there's the 1.25-meter station, which has both EME and tropo terrestrial at the same station. And then it goes to the 2-meter sideband station, getting to the edge of the photo, and then the 90 sideband CWFT8, the tropo station as we call it. And then off the picture, there's another station, which is 70-centimeter tropo. So there's a lot he's got going on in this station. Along the top of the picture, there's some, I don't know, 1 3/4 inch or 2.5 inch hardline. There's some big hardline coax in there.
That's where I bought my hardline. He had a bunch of big spools, and I picked up 1 inch and 5/8 from him. That's what they ran primarily, is 1 inch and 5/8 out there. Now, one thing that she didn't mention is right at the edge of her desk goes into like a break room with a microwave, coffee pot, and all that. And then there's a bunk room, so that contest, because Marshall take contesting serious. They start contesting on the VHF contest, and it's around the clock, and they have teams that are bunking in the back sleeping, and then they change shifts and the other ones go. So it's a serious business with Marshall.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit about the contest. You know, a lot of times it's just in the June contest, you typically get some E-skip. 6 meters is real hot, and you can run a ton of cues. But in September, especially January, but September E-skip's not as common, and you don't necessarily have the good conditions as in June, which is the big contest. So I operated overnight. That was my big operating time. I operated a little bit in the afternoon, then took a good long nap, got up around 10:30, and then operated all through the night until about 10 in the morning, in fact. And you wouldn't think there's that much going on at night. That the moon had set. The moon was actually set around 11:30, so there was no EME activity overnight. So I was the solo one running there, and it wasn't real busy, but the night owls, a lot of operators, and I don't quite understand this because the conditions often get really good late at night, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, but most operators are shutting down by 10, 11. But enhancement tends to pick up. The big thing that people do run is meteor scatter overnight. And so I was running a lot of meteor scatter on 2 meters and 6, and occasionally 1.25 meters. And with meteor scatter, I worked stations as far as Maryland, as I recall. But around the time people were starting to get up in the morning, about 5 a.m., 6 a.m. is where you see a lot of contest activity. Well, after running meteors for a while, it was 3:30 a.m. In Texas here, but it was 4:30. It was getting time for the morning contest surge, and there was a huge opening. And I think you've got a picture of that here, Greg. Oh, there's
He looks really energetic.
I see a huge opening over there.
Yeah, some of the operators. Another one of the pictures I sent you. Do you have that one? There we go. All that bright red, and we're on the Texas-Louisiana coast, or excuse me, border, Texas-Louisiana border, about halfway up. And all that was open. Starting around 3:30, I started to see contacts, and I put some FT8 on. I was running meteor scatter, 70 centimeters, 1¼ meters. I just left it CQing, but starting at that 3:30, 4 o'clock, when it 5 o'clock east, people were starting to get up, and I was working stations, and I got out of the seat and I was standing up. At one point, I had one station running meteor scatter, the other one's all running FT8 or meteor scatter. I was flipping back and forth. Meteor scatter operates very similar to FT8, and people should play with that more, I think. But I was literally walking around from station to station, just turning my head, which one needs attention. I would jump to it, start it CQing, it worked somebody, that one worked somebody. I was going back and forth, and I had an awesome time for a few hours working about 100 stations all the way out into North Carolina. I was looking at the distances on these things. I was working 700, 800, 900, 1,000 miles, just kind of routinely popping off all over the place. I had a great time during that part of the contest. And then people started to show up, and the band like kind of died. So
yeah,
then I went to bed.
Well, let me take us out of screen share here and bring us back to whatever it is we were in. Marshall actually makes band openings. I pretty much can work Marshall anytime, any conditions from here. So it's great. And that's why they have that entire wall filled with plaques all the way around the whole building. And that's it's a massive building. And it sits all by itself on a nice hill with mega sized towers and stuff. So it's great.
I got to roll my eyes at that. Greg's definition of hill belies the fact that he's probably been in Texas too much of his life. Hill, yeah, it's a hill, maybe 20 feet higher than the general area, 30 feet.
Well,
Texas,
when the whole place has got an elevation of 8 feet above sea level, and you got a 20-foot hill, that's a pretty high hill.
No, you guys have to come to Missouri.
I'm perfectly happy with the hills where my ranch is. Our ranch is in the hill country. We're up 2,000 plus feet elevation there from one end to the other.
The advantage of like the open areas, and I think of like Ohio, from New Jersey headed west, Pennsylvania's a lot of hills, but once you get in Ohio, it starts to flatten out, and out through Indiana, Missouri, Texas, that whole area, it's great for roving because I could be rolling on the move. I'm on the highway that's elevated a little bit from the surrounding terrain. I don't have to go find a great big hilltop to work stations. I don't have those obstructions near me. And that's one of the things I really like when I get out in the open areas, and why I do roving on the move as much as I do.
Yeah.
Now you got just rock.
Yeah. When you get, we know about rock with the ranch area. I mean, when you get into the hill country, we have 1/8 of an inch of soil, and then it's limestone. And that's it. we're fortunate at our place because a big chunk of our ranch is in the valley. So we've got hundreds of years of thousands of years of soil built up in the garden and pasture areas. But where the house is and everything up, if you rub your finger down it, you've just scraped all the dirt off the ground.
So
But when you head out west, I don't know how if you've gone out west in Texas, Andrea, but you go into mountains and stuff. That's the great thing about Texas is we got 4 different basic
yeah, I know there's something
environments.
something like mountains in Texas. Now, when you say a valley, first off, I wonder how a VHF operator picks a place in a valley. But then again,
Right.
you're talking a Texas valley that's about 30 feet down in your tower easily.
No, our house is at an elevation of 1,650 feet. The pasture area where the barns and roost garden and pastures and stuff are about 1,570 feet. And then you go to our house, and this is part of the problem. And I'm just going to point out, I was not a VHF UHF operator when we bought this. And it goes from our house at 1,650 feet to 2,040 in less than about 100 feet. I mean, it straight up. You got about 60 feet in the elevation. Well, we walk 10 feet away from our house and we're looking at the roof. So, I mean, it goes up steep and quick. But when I've been a ham since 1968. And the first time I ever operated higher than 15 meters was in 2005 when I bought the Kenwood TS2000, and it had bands besides HF. Everything I did before was all HF. It was 15, 20, and 40 meters.
All right, our beloved dinosaur.
Hey, but I've changed. I'm now all VHF, UHF. In fact, my poor HF radio gets turned on about once every 9 months anymore.
So when you get on HF now, is it like 160?
No, I spend most of my time, if I'm on HF, on 20 and 17. Before we put a repeater up, Ruth and I put a repeater up in the Texas Hill Country, halfway between the ranch and our house here. So now we've got dependable communications to and from the ranch and the house here in town, because we're separated by almost 100 miles. And the repeater does a good job. We've got a good repeater site that I've got blessed with. But before that, our only way of talking was 80 meters because there's no cell phone coverage out there. So, and 80 just ain't practical for dependable communications, too crowded. Well, I think we've covered everything. Sam?
All right, so thank you all, whoever has hung in this long. All great stories. So we appreciate those of you who stay on all the way to the end. And one of these days, there's going to be some kind of prize or something for the person who has lasted all the way to the end of this. So we're going to come up with something.
The one person.
The one person. But we want to thank all, 1 or 2 of you who made it this far. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We want to say thank you once again to our sponsors, the Hamsters Week Signal Group, because without all of the support Greg brings in with the group, we could not do this show. So thank you so much to all of our supporters out there. And thank you to those people who put the comments and the questions down below, because that's part of what keeps us interacting with you. So if you do have a question or a comment or something you want to share, I kind of miss everybody sharing pictures of their ham shacks. So let me tell you, if you'd like your ham shack gone over by Melissa, because that girl goes over ham shacks if she gets any pictures, just, let us know below or email them directly. Greg will leave the links right below the video of where you can email your pictures. And we would love to have more pictures of your ham shacks to share. It would be embarrassing for me to share mine right now because it's in pieces. So send us your pictures, send us your questions, interact with us because we love that. Final thoughts, Andrea?
I don't have anything to add here, Sam. You caught me totally off guard.
All right. Greg?
Yeah, one of the things we're going to be doing is in a very near future, Andrea is preparing. We're going to do a special show that's dedicated to a special that she's working on. And I'm going to get Melissa over here, and she's going to take a tour of our new shack, which is actually a lot bigger than the wide angle cameras making it look. So we're going to be doing a complete detailed thing, and we'll see if we can get her actually on the radio and stuff there too.
Awesome.
I think she's going for a world record of procrastinating talking.
I think so too. So that brings us to Melissa, your final thoughts, lady.
None, I'm good. I'm good.
She's even trying to procrastinate here. All right. So we're going to say goodbye to everybody. We hope you'll come back for next month. We know we're kind of a goofy gang to hang out with, but we really appreciate your support. We'll say 73 to you and see you next month.
Have a good night, everybody.